Explaining Quality Concepts to Non-Specialists, a training session on communication skills for quality professionals. The instructor, Dr. Sofia Chen, is providing guidance on explaining quality concepts to non-specialist audiences.
Welcome everyone to our session on explaining quality concepts to non-specialists. As quality professionals, you often need to communicate technical information to people who don't have a quality background: senior managers, employees from other departments, customers, or even the general public. The ability to translate complex quality concepts into accessible language is a crucial skill for building support, driving improvement, and promoting a quality-focused culture. Let's start by acknowledging the challenge. Technical expertise often comes with its own vocabulary and way of thinking that can create a barrier to communication with non-specialists. If we aren't aware of this barrier, we might unintentionally use jargon, make assumptions about prior knowledge, or present information in a way that is confusing or overwhelming.
I often struggle with that. I'm so used to using certain terms that I don't realize other people don't understand them.
That's a common experience. The first step in effective communication is knowing your audience. What is their level of technical knowledge? What are their priorities and concerns? What language or concepts will resonate with them? Before you attempt to explain a quality concept, take a moment to put yourself in your audience's shoes. What would they need to know to understand this information? What questions might they have? What would motivate them to care about the topic? With that understanding, you can then adapt your language, examples, and overall approach to be more effective. The second key is to start with the why before you get to the what or the how. People are more likely to engage with technical information if they understand why it matters to them. Connect the quality concept to their personal goals, organizational objectives, or customer needs. For example, instead of starting with a definition of statistical process control, you might start with a statement about how SPC can help reduce defects, improve efficiency, and increase customer satisfaction. This creates a hook that draws the audience in and makes them more receptive to the technical details.
I've tried that, but sometimes it's hard to connect quality concepts to things that non-technical people care about.
That's where you need to think creatively about making the connection explicit. Ask yourself, how does this concept ultimately affect our customers, our employees, or our bottom line? Even seemingly abstract quality concepts often have very practical implications that can be explained in accessible terms. Here are some examples. Instead of, we need to implement a robust corrective action process to comply with ISO 9001 requirements. Try, a strong corrective action process helps us fix problems quickly and prevent them from happening again. This means fewer defects, more reliable products, and happier customers. Instead of, we're implementing statistical process control to reduce variation in our manufacturing processes. Try, by tracking our processes closely, we can identify and eliminate sources of inconsistency. This means more uniform products, better efficiency, and lower costs. Instead of, we need to conduct a supplier audit to assess their compliance with our quality standards. Try, auditing our suppliers helps ensure they're providing us with high-quality materials. This means fewer defects in our products and greater reliability for our customers. The third key is to use analogies and metaphors to explain complex concepts. Analogies relate unfamiliar ideas to familiar experiences, making them easier to grasp. Metaphors use figurative language to create a more vivid and memorable image. For example, instead of explaining statistical process control in terms of standard deviations and control limits, you might use an analogy of driving a car. Think of SPC as like driving a car. You want to stay within the lines on the road, control limits. If you start to drift outside those lines, you need to make a correction to get back on course, corrective action. Instead of describing root cause analysis as a systematic investigation, you might use a metaphor of peeling an onion. Root cause analysis is like peeling an onion. You have to remove layer after layer to get to the core of the problem. The key is to choose analogies and metaphors that are relevant to your audience and that accurately reflect the underlying concepts. Avoid oversimplification or using analogies that might be misleading.
What about situations where you need to explain complex data or technical reports? How do you avoid overwhelming people with too much detail?
That's a great question. Data and technical reports can be particularly challenging to communicate to non-specialists. I recommend the following approach. Start with the conclusion. Tell people what the data means before you show them the numbers. This gives them a framework for understanding the details. Use visuals to highlight key trends or patterns. Graphs, charts, and diagrams are often more effective than tables of raw data. Focus on the so what. What are the implications of this data for the audience? What actions should they take based on these results? Avoid technical jargon and explain any specialized terms clearly. Provide context for the data. What are the benchmarks, targets, or historical trends that help interpret the results? For example, instead of presenting a table of emissions data with dozens of different parameters, you might start with a statement like, "Our emissions remain within permitted limits, but we've seen a slight increase in one parameter that we need to monitor closely." Then you can show a graph highlighting that specific parameter and explain its significance. Finally, let's talk about the importance of active listening and feedback. Communication is a two-way process, and it's essential to ensure that your message is being understood. Ask clarifying questions. Does that make sense? Or are there any questions about this? Encourage feedback. What are your thoughts on this? Or do you see any potential challenges with this approach? Pay attention to nonverbal cues. Are people nodding in agreement, looking confused, or checking their phones? If you sense that your message isn't resonating, be prepared to adjust your approach. You might need to rephrase your explanation, provide additional examples, or address specific concerns. Remember that the goal is shared understanding, not just transmitting information. By actively engaging your audience and seeking feedback, you can ensure that your message is clear, relevant, and impactful.
This is all helpful. What about situations where you need to communicate bad news or report on quality failures? How do you maintain credibility while not alarming people unnecessarily?
That's a critical challenge, especially in quality and environmental management, where transparency and accountability are essential. The key is to be honest, direct, and solution-oriented. Start by acknowledging the issue and its potential impact. Don't try to minimize or downplay the problem. Provide context by explaining the root causes and any contributing factors. Focus on what you're doing to address the issue. Outline the corrective actions you're taking and the steps you're implementing to prevent recurrence. Communicate with empathy and concern. Acknowledge the potential impact on customers, employees, or the environment. Be transparent about any uncertainties or limitations. Don't overpromise or make guarantees you can't keep. Focus on solutions and improvement. Emphasize your commitment to learning from the experience and preventing similar issues in the future. By following these guidelines, you can communicate challenging information with honesty, integrity, and a commitment to continuous improvement. To summarize our discussion today, effective communication of quality concepts to non-specialists involves knowing your audience and adapting your message accordingly, starting with the why before explaining the what or how, using analogies and metaphors to explain complex concepts, presenting data with appropriate context and visualization, seeking feedback and adapting your approach as needed, communicating honestly and transparently, even when delivering bad news. By implementing these strategies, you can become a more effective communicator, build stronger relationships, and promote a culture of quality and continuous improvement within your organization. What specific action will you take to improve your ability to explain quality concepts to non-specialist audiences after today's session?